So today we are working on putting a new automatic window motor in my 1984 GMC Jimmy. This should be the same for most square body Chevy GMC trucks from the 80s. Yeah, very similar. These motors are, this is a brand new motor, but the motors that are in this door are worn out. These motors sit down in the door right about here. So what we need to do to get these out is get the mechanism arms from inside of this door out so I can take the motor off of those arms and replace it with the new one. So we'll do a step-by-step tutorial on how to do that. The first step is removing these three 7/16 bolts that are holding on the door release from the inside. So you take all three of those guys out. Okay, and then what that does is it allows that mechanism just to free fall and sit down here out of your way, because this whole assembly will come out of the door, out of this big square. So the next thing we want to do is remove this support brace for the door. Same thing, 7/16 bolt. Next we'll remove the final two 7/16 bolts. These are holding on the lower portion of the window carrier, the scissor arms that make the window go up and down. And then these two 7/16 nuts come off as well. And their washer, if you can get that off, I'll get that off in a little while. Then you want to take painter's tape and tape both sides of your window up over the door jamb so that when you actually remove the scissors that are supporting this window, it's not going to fall down into your door and break. Then you want to disconnect the power source to your motor, which is down there. Let's see if I can get a little bit better picture. Oh, perfect. So yeah, so we want to disconnect our power source to the back of this motor. So what we're looking at is, right, so if it'll focus, right there on the new motor is right down here. So this whole assembly comes out. What you do is you push these two bolts back into your door. So these guys are going to be pushed that way into the door to release the tension on that whole motor assembly. So let me set up my tripod and show you how this works. So all I did was reach inside of the door and kind of got my hands on both sides of the motor assembly and just pulled it back into the door so that those nipples fall into the door. So now this whole assembly in here is loose. Now we need to remove the wheels from the tracks. So each of the scissor component is held on with wheels that are guided by tracks. So we'll take in this door, either right here. They slide in and out of this track, and this track is hooked to the window, which we taped up. So in order to get this out, you can see it kind of, it's dark. But right there, this wheel has to go back into this groove and then come out. So I'll get that set up and show you how that comes out. Okay, so now the toughest part of this installation, getting the whole assembly out of this door. It's actually very easy once you know how to do it. So the technique of this is this motor is sitting down here in the bottom of the door. What you want to do is reach your hand down here in the bottom of the door, grab the motor on both sides, and push it out, and then slide it back. So there are 3 rollers. There's 2 on the top that support the window, and then there's one that runs from here to here inside the door. So once you have the assembly loose, this wheel that's inside the door right back here can feel the track. Keep pushing that way until it pops out. So you'll see it show up right here in this little window. There we go. See it right here. And then this, once it's out of its track, can scissor up, and that whole assembly can come out of that door. So then you just collapse these scissors to make room. Just like that, just some finesse, and it goes back in the exact same way. Here is the motor assembly out of the truck. New motor we've got here. This is kind of the orientation of how it's going to lay out. What you want to do is take your 1/2-inch socket, and these are all 1/2-inch bolts, and these will release this motor. Whoa. Okay, then you just flip this guy back over, just like that. It just comes right out of there. Next thing we want to do is clean up these parts really well, get all this old grease off of them. Old brake cleaner works out great. I won't show you me cleaning these because it's pretty boring to watch people clean tools, but you get the point. Just go through this, clean both sides up really well. Then the next thing is I always use some sort of assembly grease and go over every single one of these joints and just pack them with grease. I'll clean this up after I get these all packed, but just to give you kind of an example, just so when you put this back together, you know, you've wiped away a lot of the old grease, but what you want it to do is function properly when you get it back together. So, you know, can hear that. That's obviously not smooth. So when we get these all re-greased and reworking again, then I'll feel comfortable putting this motor back on, because everything will function and that motor won't have all the stress of not being greased, and we won't have metal on metal anywhere and just all the nasties that happen over, you know, this is an 84 vehicle, so do the math, it's been around a long time. So once everything is greased up, take your 1/2-inch and retighten the new motor on the carrier assembly. Or not. And what you want to do is you make sure that the teeth of your motor right in here match up with the teeth on the assembly. so they're not bound up. It should just be an easy fit. There shouldn't be any resistance when you put the motor up to the assembly. And I just crank these down till they're, you know, hand tight. I don't have any specific torque spec that I go to on these. I just make sure they're all even when I crank them down. Reassembling this whole assembly is fairly easy. It's just like how I took it out. So again, this thing sits down inside the door about here, and these arms again fit in this track right here that is hooked to the window, and this one fits down in here. So reassembling, compress the arms. There you go, just like so. And then what we'll do is, the first thing you want to do is line up these arms in each of the tracks. Just how I explained, taking them out, put them in the same way. Then I'll show you how to hook it up through the rest of the door. Once we have our wheels lined up, so if I look back up in here, my wheels are in this track right there. That will provide support for the carrier assembly. And the next thing that you do, move this back, is reach down in here in your door, grab your new motor, and then you want to line the final steps of this installation. You need to put your brace back on, you need to put your door handle back on. Everything goes on basically just how you took it off. Also, make sure to hook up your power to your motor. Hook up all your mounting bolts for the carrier. Got them both under here. So everything looks good. And we will hook this up in a little while and see if they actually work. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Luke's Garage. I'll be posting more here in the next few weeks. As always, tons of projects going on with the Jimmy. And yeah, I'll be posting whatever comes up.